Did you know King Henry VIII of England is one of the most famous monarchs of all of English history? Throughout his reign, he had made an everlasting impact throughout England and the rest of Europe. The world would look quite different if Henry had not been on the throne. But what if I was to tell you the tyrannical leader we all know today as Henry VIII so nearly did not become the King of England? In fact, what if I was to tell you for most of his childhood he didn't believe he had become the King of England? You see, Henry had an older brother known as Prince Arthur, and being the older child, naturally Prince Arthur was named as the heir to the English throne. The brother's father, King Henry VII, spent most of his reign preparing Prince Arthur to be his successor. Henry VIII did not receive any attention from his father and was designed to have a much more quieter life. However, we all know this would be the opposite to be, as Prince Arthur died of tuberculosis aged just 15. With no other children, this now meant that the young Henry was now the new heir. But what would have happened in another universe? A universe where Prince Arthur didn't die young and did become the King of England as we expected. What if Henry VIII never became King of England? Firstly, let's have a look at what Henry's life would have looked like if he hadn't have became king. As the second son, Henry was educated for a career working for the church. He might have continued down this path and could have rose to a high-ranking position like the Archbishop of Canterbury. However, given his love for sports and hunting, he may have preferred the role of a high-ranking English noble. This would probably have been a position he would have been good at, as he could enjoy his hobbies whilst not having to worry about running the country as well. Without being King of England, Henry VIII's love life would have looked completely different. The reason Henry had married most of his 6 wives was in the attempts to secure the Tudor dynasty with a male heir. Without this growing pressure, he wouldn't have needed to remarry so many times. It is likely that he would have not married his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, because she was already married to Prince Arthur. Instead, he would have married the daughter of a powerful English noble family, securing Henry a strong position at court. As we know, Henry VIII had a lasting impact on history during his reign, with some of his decisions making England look completely different today. Firstly, let's look at the religious side of his legacy. It was reported that Prince Arthur was more like his father Henry VII, and if Arthur was to become king, he'd have led a more sensible reign without controversial decisions like that which of his brother made. This would mean that England would have most likely have remained under the Catholic religion. This means England wouldn't have broken away from the Catholic Church and wouldn't have switched to be a Protestant country. Firstly, this would lead to the Pope continuing to have an influence over English politics. But more significantly, the religious conflict in England, which lasted for many decades after Henry VIII's reign, would have simply have been avoided. If Protestants never claimed power, then a constant switch between the two religions wouldn't have happened, because it is likely any children Prince Arthur would have had would have been educated to be a Catholic. Some major events which would have happened because of Henry's break from the Catholic Church quite simply wouldn't have happened. For example, the English alliance between Spain would have lasted for a lot longer. Without Henry inheriting the throne, neither would have any of his children, including Elizabeth I. With the determined relations between the Spanish during Elizabeth's reign, this would mean that the famous Spanish Armada would have never occurred. Firstly, this would mean England wouldn't come close to becoming a Spanish colony, but without the Spanish Armada occurring, history would have looked completely different for the Spanish. When Spain lost the Spanish Armada, it was seen as a huge embarrassment. The empire lost some of its prestige, and it led to other Spanish colonies to grow in confidence against its Spanish rule. Many historians mark the defeat of the Spanish Armada as the beginning of the fall of the Spanish Empire. If England was to remain in a Spanish alliance, then Spain might have been a lot more of a powerful country. There also wouldn't be any English trying to contest Spain in the New World, with their alliance allowing Spain to continue their dominance in the area and making them even more richer. But speaking of empires, the British Empire may have not been as strong as we know it would become. Throughout Henry VIII's reign, he worked hard working on improving the English navy. With determined relations with the rest of Europe, Henry saw it as a priority to secure the English borders. He transformed the English navy from a few small boats to a large fleet of over 40 ships. It wasn't just the quantity improved, but the quality too. He oversaw the improvement of ship design, and it was under Henry's reign that the famous Mary Rose was built. He also constructed famous dockyards like Portsmouth and oversaw the building of defences all across the English coastline. Henry had pretty much revolutionised the navy to prevent an invasion of the British Isles. And if he thought invasions of England were to come, he certainly would be right. In his own life, the French attempted an invasion which was crushed at the Battle of Solent. After his life, many other attempts of invading England would occur, but each and every one would fail. But what if Henry hadn't improved the navy? England wouldn't have well-built defences to prevent an invasion, and maybe if we weren't to have Henry on the throne, we might all be speaking French or Spanish or even possibly German. Henry earned himself the nickname the father of the navy, but the navy wasn't used just for defending, but it would be used for attacking too. If Henry didn't become king, the navy wouldn't have been so powerful. And if England didn't have any boats, then English privateers couldn't have explored the New World. So to put this simply, the British Empire probably wouldn't have existed. I would have to make a whole video explaining how the world would be completely different if the British Empire didn't exist, so maybe drop a like if you would like to see that video. But if England didn't go and colonise the world like we know the British Empire did, then the countries which would have been created because of the British Empire would have never gained independence, because they wouldn't have been colonised to gain independence in the first place. Instead, British colonies such as the USA, Australia, Canada and many more would have looked completely different without influence from the British Empire. Instead, they may have been influenced under Spanish or French rule. So what is the moral of the video? Well, it shows just how events such as the death of a 15-year-old boy to tuberculosis would have made such a massive difference on what the world would have looked like today. Many remember Henry VIII for his ruthless executions and his 6 wives, but maybe we should also think of other more important events which shaped the course of history. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe, as in the future I plan on releasing more longer videos.